Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Tesla's second quarter 2026 Q&A webcast. My name is Travis Axelrod, Head of Investor Relations, and I'm joined today by Elon Musk, Vaibhav Taneja, and a number of other executives. Our Q2 results were announced at about 3 p.m. Central Time in the update deck we published at the same link as this webcast. During this call, we will discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. These comments are based on our predictions and expectations as of today. Actual events or results could differ materially due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those mentioned in our most recent filings with the SEC.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kilowatt, a podcast about electric vehicles, renewable energy, autonomous driving, and much, much more. My name is Bodie, and I am your host. And on this weekly episode of Kilowatt, we are going to cover Tesla's Q2 2026 earnings call. Now, normally we'll do like Ford and Chevy and, Lucid and Rivian. For this quarter, I think we're just going to do Lucid, Rivian, and what's the other one? Tesla. Oh boy. Okay, yes, Tesla. That's the one we're doing today, and just in case anyone's curious. Simply because the last couple of Ford and GM earnings calls haven't been super fun, for me to cover. And they've kind of, I don't know, I felt they were sort of informative when it comes to EVs, but also kind of boring. Well, maybe, if something cool comes out of those, or we hear that something cool coming out of those earnings calls, maybe we'll cover them. But for right now, it's just the three: Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid. And Lucid should be pretty interesting simply because, there was rumor that they were going bankrupt, and Lucid new CEO at that, had to come out and say, no, that's not the case. And then Rivian's got the R2. So those two should be pretty exciting. And then Tesla's always fun to listen to for the earnings call. All right. We do have two new patrons, two new Supercast users. Now, listen, I need your help because if you signed up to become a patron and you signed up with the gibberish and in fake email addresses, please let me know because I'm kind of thinking I might be scammed here. But let's go ahead and thank our the folks that signed up. The first person that signed up, oh, good. The charge failed. Okay. That makes me feel better. I don't know what was going on. GGT6J9.GHH space HHH. If you're a legitimate patron and you had an issue, please let me know with signing up to be a supporter on Supercast, or HDI space LDJD. If you had an issue, please let me know. I'm guessing this was there's something going on here that's not right. Anyway, if you're one of those people, please email me and I'll help you out. But like I said, I have a feeling there's maybe shenanigans going on. But if you want to join and support the show, you can go to patreon.com/kilowatt, or you can just go to supportkilowatt.com, which is where I should have sent you in the first place. That's where you should go, supportkilowatt.com. Hey, you know what? Before I embarrass myself further, which I'm not sure I could, let's go ahead and jump into Elon's opening remarks and let Elon embarrass himself. I'm only joking.
We achieved a record Q2 deliveries. Model Y, I believe, is now, I think it's the best-selling car of any kind in the world, and is setting records across the board. So its popularity is increasing tremendously, and we're seeing in locations that have FSD approved, we're seeing a very high take rate of FSD, and in fact, I think for a lot of people, they're actually buying Tesla Full Self-Driving with a car attached, as opposed to a car with FSD. They're coming into our stores in the US and saying they want the Full Self-Driving, and with whatever car it comes with, essentially. So clearly, this is a significant demand driver, and as we get approval for FSD in uh, different countries, I think we'll see a similar uptick in demand. So yeah, it's looking very good on that front. The energy business is also growing incredibly fast, and I think will be um, crucial for the scale up of artificial intelligence data centers. Um, we're investing a lot in growing the core business and and really preparing for the future. So this is a massive capex year, but I'm confident that all the things that we're investing in are will yield incredible returns. Really, maybe I think the best capex returns that we've ever seen. Um, and just the the Tesla team has performed incredibly well. The CyberCab has started production, and we also have started production and are ramping in. We will soon start production with Optimus. We have started production with the Tesla semi truck. We will soon start production with Megapack 3. We've started production with the lithium refinery, the cathode refinery. We're scaling up battery cell productions, battery cell production, and we're also preparing to do a massive solar panel, like solar cells and panel production. Actually, this is going all the way from silicon refinement to producing the solar cell and then deployment of solar because there's going to be tremendous need for electricity in the future due to electrification of transport and uh, and AI, obviously. So we're working on what we believe is the most ambitious build out of advanced infrastructure and manufacturing capacity ever in history. It's a big deal. So with Robotaxi, um, our goals are very ambitious for Robotaxi, but we do need to be cautious about um, causing any accidents or causing any harm to anyone. Although there are, I think, 30 to 40,000 automotive deaths per year in the United States alone, most of those do not generate any press or maybe there's that there you never really read about almost any of those. But if we injure even one person, it will be worldwide headline news, and regulators will immediately clamp down on our activities. So, and we don't want to injure anyone. So we're going as fast as humanly possible in scaling robotaxi, um, but with while trying to ensure that we do not harm anyone at all, um, and ideally do not even run over a pet. So that's really the constraint is we're we want to grow as fast as possible with robotaxi without harm to anyone. Um, and we're providing live updates for Robotaxi launch as we open up in a city. We immediately post that on X. So just follow the Tesla account on X. We'll keep you informed as we scale to new cities. We've opened up in a number of cities in Florida and in Texas, and obviously in the Bay Area. So we'll continue to scale. I think very rapidly on with you um, it looks like more than 10% a week in terms of miles driven. So it's a very high compound growth rate.
So we're starting off with Model Y sales are great, and they seem like they are for sure. I'm going to talk about the FSD take rate here in just a second. He didn't say that they have like a high capital expenditures at the moment, but they expect huge returns. I mean, genuinely, what else are you gonna say? Like, we're spending billions of dollars, and we expect to, not see any return or any. I don't know. Of course, you're gonna expect high returns. Who knows if those bets are gonna pay off? Hopefully, they do. But yeah, talks about Robotaxi. I'm all on board with growing without harm. Live updates on Robotaxi and how that is rolling out on X, which I think is good. The thing I want to talk about a little bit is the high take rate for FSD. He said people are buying based on full self-driving. I want to see the numbers on that. And I'm sure if you are a if you are a Tesla investor, you want to see the numbers on that as well, because Elon's pay package is in part based on FSD adoption. So, I'm not saying Elon can't lie, or I'm not saying Elon's lying, I should say, because if he says something that's a lie during an earnings call, that's a crime. Can't do that. So I would like to see, or I would like to know in the future when they pay Elon his massive pay package, how are we quantifying those numbers? How are we coming up with this many people are subscribed? Like, how are you proving it, I guess? Because as of right now, as far as I know, they haven't really given hard numbers. They give, they have been more open in the past, and I'll give them that. But it hasn't been like, oh, we have so much, so many FSD subscribers, uh, 10 million, which are probably more cars than Tesla has, but 70% of the fleet's operating on FSD right now. That'd be awesome. But we don't really get those numbers. It's not to say that Tesla isn't being honest, because I want to be very careful here. That is not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, show me the numbers. Show me the numbers. I'm not Tom Cruise. I can't do that. Anyway, let's hear about Optimus, shall we?
So let's see, Optimus. As you've heard me say before, I think Optimus will be the biggest product ever, but it is a very complex problem to solve. Um, it's one of the hardest things to solve, to make an autonomous humanoid robot that can do tasks that if you simply ask it to do something or show it a video, it can do the task without any programming. Um, like no one's ever achieved this. And there are many challenges in the electromechanical design of the robot to achieve sufficient dexterity and rely and also be very reliable and have long wear and tear. Like meaning, it needs to be out in the field and not break down. Otherwise, you've got sort of a 70-kilogram robot that just flopped over, and you got to carry it out like a body. It doesn't have wheels. So and we don't want Optimus to go haywire. So um, it's a lot of work to scale to get the design right and to scale production. And I really want to emphasize here that the production scaling challenge is very substantial. This is going to be the hardest product to scale manufacturing that we've ever made at Tesla, because everything on the robot is new, and the difficulty of scaling the production ramp is proportionate to the newness of the parts in the robot. And at least with electric cars, the non-electric powertrain portions of the cars had an existing supply chain. So you could go to existing suppliers for wheels and side mirrors and windshield glass and that kind of thing, body panels. And but with Optimus, there is no supply chain. So we've had to build up a supply chain in its entirety, or in-house the production, and we've in-housed a tremendous amount. Um, the Optimus production line that we're building out in Fremont, uh, in place of where used to be the Model SX production, it looks incredible. I mean, it's quite stunning to see. Um, so um, so I just want to make sure to calibrate people correctly. It's Optimus will follow the sort of normal S curve of manufacturing of a manufacturing ramp, but the initial portion of the X curve will be quite flat and long because of the newness of um, the parts in the robot. Um, so um, Right, you've probably seen lots of impressive demonstrations of robots on the internet, but those demonstrations you're seeing are pre-programmed or remote controlled. So there is no humanoid robot that is actually able to do generalized tasks. Uh, Optimus will be the first one that is capable of doing that. Where it's not just a demo; it's genuinely useful in day-to-day life. So, and Optimus is designed to have full human dexterity, so a hand that has the same level of dexterity, if not higher, than a human hand. And the human hand is an incredible thing. The more you study the human hand, the more amazing you realize how amazing hands are. It's more than just opposable thumbs. I mean, the nuances of how human hands work are amazing. As you, like so the closer you look, the more amazed you are. Um, and Optimus will have that capability. It'll have human and then superhuman dexterity. Uh, so it's really going to be quite something. Um, let's see, TerraFab. Um, the TerraFab, we expect to announce the location soon, um, and provide uh, more details about our plans in that regard, which we'll leave that to the product, so the launch announcement, rather than try to squeeze it into an earnings call, because I think this is a very big announcement, and it deserves to have its own sort of day in the spotlight, and not be sort of squeezed into an earnings call. But I do think TerraFab is going to be uh, an amazing initiative and a necessary one, and one without which we will be constrained in our ability to scale Optimus production, because we simply won't have enough AI chips. So it's crucial to solve that, and we'll have to solve um, memory, logic, and packaging for in order to scale Optimus. So um, if anyway, like I said, we'll leave that to its own announcement. We've placed equipment orders for our development fab in Austin, um, and that development fab I think is pretty cool because it's intended to have lithography mask production, um, and then logic, memory, and packaging and chip testing all under one roof. So you can have a very fast iterative cycle, and try out new chip designs very quickly and see if they work. I don't think such a building exists anywhere on Earth. So this is really going to be super helpful as we try some um, exciting, adventurous, high risk, high payoff bets on AI chips. Um, but they focus, like I said, on primarily on Optimus. Like, how do we make Optimus as useful as possible? Um, then we have digital Optimus, which is basically um, just driving a computer screen. I guess you could call it computer use or something like that. But driving a computer screen in the same way that you drive a car. So for the car, it's sort of pixels in or photons in and controls out. The same thing is true for Optimus and digital Optimus. It's photons in, controls out. So we feel confident we can adapt the same Tesla AI technology that we developed for self-driving cars to have a self-driving computer screen or self-driving computer essentially. So the self-driving computer, where the Tesla, um, the very low cost Tesla AI 4 computer can uh, handle all of the sort of short-term tasks. They're doing real-time video control of the screen of the computer. So it's not like screenshots type of thing. It's real-time video um, at high frame rate. And the digital Optimus will be important, obviously, for physical Optimus, because physical Optimus needs to be able to operate computers. It's like it can't come up to a touchscreen and not know what to do. It's got to have a generalized touchscreen and computer use capability. Um, so that's looking promising. And um, this is in partnership with SpaceX, SpaceX's Grok. So the big model that is kind of like the manager of Digital Optimus, and and kind of tells Digital Optimus what to do, provides it with a series of tasks, and then Digital Optimus goes and does those tasks. Um, so you can, um, we're also building out a Megapod design that has um, Tesla AI full computers um, with x86. It's a pairing um, x86 um, computer with the Tesla AI full computer in a box, and it's got this digital Optimus in a box, and in a Megapod, kind of like the Megapack packaging, and so where we put just a large number of AI full plus x86 um, combos um, in a giant box essentially. And that these boxes can be placed anywhere in the country or outside the country. And this allows us to scale AI compute using disaggregated electricity production. So because there's lots of places all around the world, including at our superchargers. I think we've got something like 7 gigawatts of power at our superchargers and growing. And we can place megapods at many of these superchargers and have distributed uh, power for AI. So I think that could be quite a big deal. So in conclusion, we're super excited about our autonomy and robotics roadmap. Um, there's so much awesome stuff coming. It's like I said, hard to squeeze into an earnings call. But we'll have a lot of product announcements, um, and this is going to be a great year for Tesla. I think one of our best years ever, and then I think next year will be even better. So, in conclusion, I want to thank the Tesla team for their excellent execution and all of our supporters for joining us in this journey. Thank you.
Just going back over, he said that Optimus would be Tesla's biggest product ever. He said similar things about Tesla Energy and Cybertruck and FSD and AI. And of course, he did say that about Optimus. He mentioned that Tesla's working on finding a place to build a TerraFab, which at some point in time might be their a version of their biggest product ever. Obviously, it sounds like the TerraFab will be used mostly to support Optimus. Talked a lot about the chips and a lot of that will go back to Optimus. It doesn't sound like the cars are going to see that anytime soon. We've heard that in the past. Listen, Optimus is a super hard problem to solve. Hands down, like very, very difficult. He's talking a lot about scaling. I think we need to make sure that it can work in a variety of different situations before we talk about scaling. We don't have any sort of proof that Optimus will work in the way that Tesla says that it will work. He mentioned that there are other robots out there, but if you see them, they're running some sort of pre-programmed routine or they're running on remote control. Tesla's been accused of this very thing at events that's something that they're doing. And it doesn't sound like, based on what he said, that it can do any of those things yet. The general everyday stuff that he had mentioned. But, I do think that Tesla will have something close. I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying right now we're talking about scaling production on a product that may or may not work in the way that it's being sold. That it might be a better idea to, build a few hundred a year until for sure they're rock solid before you start building hundreds of thousands like they say they're going to build. So I again, super hard super hard to do. Like not throwing shade at Tesla at all, but I don't know that they need to scale production just yet. That seems a little early. Talked a lot about AI chips. Talked about the Megapod. The Megapod could be interesting. Um, when I went to the first responders event, Tesla they showed off their emergency batteries, basically, like when something happens, like a natural disaster, they deploy these batteries. In some cases, they'll deploy mega packs like on a trailer, but they also have these very small, like you can't lift them, but you can roll them around by yourself, devices with power walls on them, and you can charge phones and little things like that. It's not a mega pack. It's just like two or four power walls connected together. And I talked to one of the engineers that designed that, and they they are thinking like I mean, whatever someone wants to think about Tesla, there are just really smart people working there. And just listening to this engineer talk about how they saw a problem and looked to solve the problem it's super cool to hear. But I would imagine this megapod thing that they're talking about with the AI, portable AI data center type. I believe that's how he's describing that. I think that's super cool. I'd like to see that. And I also wonder, SpaceX is talking about doing AI in space, which I'm dubious on. But what if these megapods are testing a test bed for the AI in space? I think it's possible. Uh, I think some things when it comes to I'm not an AI expert, but when it comes to some things, space might be a great place for it. However, um, I'm not like there's just too many problems to be solved. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into our next clips. Now, Vibhav Taneja, who is the CFO, I haven't listened to his opening remarks yet. So I don't actually know if I'm going to play anything from him or we'll just skip right to say.com questions. So let's go ahead and go to our next clip and we'll see what we get.
In Q2, we had in North America about 55% of our deliveries had FSD subscription at the time of delivery enabled. Overall, FSD attach rates continue to improve, reaching nearly 1.5 million paid customers globally, of which 55% is upfront purchases and the remaining 45% is subscriptions. We expect that the bulk of the growth in FSD monetization will come from subscriptions as we've removed the purchase option in most markets.
All right. So, yeah, ask and I guess you shall receive. So, 1.5 million paid customers, 55% of those are upfront, and the other 45% are subscriptions, which are recurring revenue. The 55% upfront isn't necessarily not recurring revenue. It could be that those people, when they buy new cars and Tesla doesn't offer an FSD transfer, it could be that those people will end up subscribing. It could be that they don't, but so 45% of 1.5 million is what, 600,000? Let me see. 45% of 1.5 million. Did I say 600,000? 675,000 current FSD subscribers times $99 a month equals. So, not too bad. That's $66 million a month in revenue. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't I wouldn't say no to $66 million a month. It's probably not as high as Tesla would like that to be right now, but yeah, it's not bad. All right. Next up, Ashok Elaswamy was going to talk about Robotaxi. So let's go ahead and listen in on that.
Many of the questions on say.com relate to robotaxi deployment and scaling. So we thought we'd provide a comprehensive view of where we are now and where we are going in the future. First of all, I'd like to state that the Robotaxi program has been operating extremely well. Especially in terms of safety, the program has had an impeccable safety record. We have driven more than 380,000 miles of unsupervised robotaxi, now across 6 cities in 2 different states. We have had 0 notable incidents. Any reports have been of other actors impacting us when we were stationary. Again, I like to emphasize how safe the operation has been so far. 0 notable incidents over 380,000 miles. Historically, the so-called experts have always claimed that you need LiDARs, radars, HD maps, and the entire kitchen sink to drive safely. Here we show that such is not true. You can have safe, comfortable, and affordable autonomy with just cameras. This record should be a huge validation of Tesla's entire AI approach. Second, I'd like to discuss scaling. We started the Robotaxi program roughly a year ago in Austin. We had safety monitors in the passenger seats of the cars back then. Around the end of last year, we had the first fully unsupervised robotaxis in Austin. Since the beginning of this year, we have grown at double-digit growth rates to the number of unsupervised miles that the fleet drives every week. I repeat, we have grown at such a high compounding rate on a week-over-week basis over the last several months. Not only that, we expect to continue growing at such a large rate through the rest of this year. The other thing to note is that for expanding to new cities, it has been relatively less effort on our front. We expect that the time to launch to a new city will continue to trend towards zero, towards an end where we operate in entire states as a whole instead of going by city by city. Such growth was only possible because we have a world-class engineering team at the frontier AI development here at Tesla. The currently operating Robotaxi fleet is already running early versions of the V15 FSD software that we had referred to in the past. For V15, we had planned roughly about 7 major improvement tracks, and they're all happening in parallel. The early V15 builds that are running on Robotaxi have already 40% of those tracks merged together, and that's what's running in the fleet right now. As we continue to complete our work on V15, we will see that the car is going to be ridiculously safe and capable. We're already seeing internal signs that all of these bets that we have made for technology improvements are all starting to work, and we expect that the payoff will be huge, and that's what is going to help us sustain the same growth rate through the rest of this year and so on. Finally, regarding the CyberCab, first of all, it's a phenomenal product. Anyone who rides in it instantly falls in love with the experience. We have aligned our manufacturing targets to roughly match the projected growth rate of the unsupervised miles. The same V15 models that power the Model Y and other platforms will also work on CyberCabs. In conclusion, Robotaxi growth so far has been literally exponential while keeping an impeccable safety record. Our technology bets are paying off, helping us sustain the exponential growth for the foreseeable future, and the CyberCab is going to be awesome.
Okay, so that wasn't much of an update. That I feel like they're filling time because of whatever reason. Maybe they don't want to answer the questions. Yeah, that. I mean, we know where they're operating. Oh man, let me go back to my notes here. I mean, 380,000 unsupervised miles. That's not nothing. I don't know. I don't know what a Waymo or a Zoox had in the same amount of time. So I can't really speak on if that's a lot, a little bit, or whatever. I just don't know. He says 0 notable incidents. How are we defining notable? Because notable to me would be anything that you would maybe necessarily have to file paperwork on. It could just, it's okay to say 0 incidents that involved, Tesla's being at fault and somebody getting injured. But I mean, we know that there are incidents. And we know that in some cases it's the fault of the Tesla. In some cases it's the fault of the person or persons in the area, like a bicycle running into a car or something like that. That's not like that big of a deal. That kind of stuff happens. What I would like to know, and Tesla doesn't necessarily have to report this as far as I know, but would be interesting is how many of these accidents happened because the driver of the car, if they're at fault, they're at fault. I'm not pulling blame away from whoever caused the accident, right? But the driver of the car was not able to read the intentions of the Tesla. And again, this is not to say this is Tesla's fault or anything like that. When an accident occurs, there's fault is assigned to one party usually. And I'm not trying to. I would have this question for all sorts of robotaxis, not just Tesla. I guess I'm saying I'm trying to be fair here. It's not. There are times I drive around a lot of Waymos. And there were times early on where I didn't know what the intention of the car was. Now I've driven around them enough now, 5, 6 years. Well, no more than that. We lived here for 8 years. So almost a decade I've been driving around them. I feel comfortable with what a Waymo is going to do. Now, if Tesla or Zoox starts operating in my area, would I feel comfortable if it did something weird? I don't know. It's probably going to do something weird in a way that a Waymo wouldn't do something weird. It's just when we are interacting with humans, we expect a certain interaction, and oftentimes we get that interaction. If we're both looking to turn into a parking spot, for instance, you and me, we're going for the same parking spot. One of us is going to get that parking spot, and we're able to kind of communicate and use hand gestures and things like that to indicate who, just go ahead and take the spot or whatever. That kind of thing is important to kind of understand, I think, when it comes to robotaxis. Again, not a Tesla thing. That's just more of a interesting study thing. What else? I don't really know that you need to mention that your camera only system is super successful and everybody said it was going to fail. That just seems stupid. To mention, I don't like. The thing I get frustrated about is you're a $1 trillion company, act like it. Like if I wouldn't if my kids did that, if they walked into class and they're like, y'all thought I was going to get a B and they got an A or a C or whatever. I just don't know. To me, it's off-putting. The whole, like, everybody said we couldn't do it with cameras. Not everybody. Some people said, and they're not so-called experts. There are people out there who actually know what they're talking about. And Tesla only has 380,000 miles on the books at the moment. That's unsupervised. So we'll see when they get millions of miles on the books. I'm just saying, unnecessary comment. And I feel like they're just kind of killing time, filling space. You know what? I thought I would just kind of look at the top 10 retail investor questions and read them from say.com. And we'll kind of see, did they answer the questions or not? First up, what are the main constraints to expanding robotaxi operations faster? How do you see this lining up with CyberCab production? I don't think we got that answer. I mean, he did say that CyberCab would go down to 0, like in deployment time, or robotaxi deployment time would go down to 0, but I don't know that we really, I don't know if they really talked about the constraints. Next question. What's the current status of Optimus Gen 3 production ramp, initial deployment in factories, and external sales timeline volume for 2027? What tasks can we expect Optimus to perform by the end of 2027? We kind of got that answer. I'm not going to play it because I don't think that it was a valuable answer. You can imagine it was, hey, this is going to be great and it's going to work great. Let's see. Next, Tesla has missed short-term guidance on Robotaxi three earnings reports in a row, from 50% coverage by the end of 2025 to exactly 7 new cities in the first half of 2026. What is keeping Tesla back from accomplishing the short-term goals that they have set themselves? That question was not answered, and if it was, not in any satisfactory way. Let's see. What do we got? Number 4. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that was only the third one. For autonomous driving, Tesla's fleet created a huge data advantage by collecting billions of real-world miles. The advantage doesn't that advantage does not yet exist for Optimus. How should we think about data availability? Okay, that question was answered, and I'm not going to play it, but I don't think that probably was decently answered. Previously, you said Tesla would lead R&D while SpaceX would do production for the TerraFab. Can you provide an update on how that division of responsibility is evolving and any additional clarity on expectation of capital contributions from SpaceX and Tesla? Definitely did not answer that question. So, moving on. What is necessary to limit robotaxi operations within specific zones within cities to start? Will every city have to roll out this way? That was an institutional question. No answer. To reward long term Tesla shareholders for the loyalty, can you commit to achieving at least half of the goals outlined in your 2025 compensation plan before considering any new offers to acquire or merge Tesla? That's a good question. Okay, that's the 7. We have not seen any. That question is not answered. 8. Why was growth of robotaxis vehicles stalled? When will we see CyberCab customer rides? Did not answer that question. Got some vague information about CyberCab. What are the latest milestones and city expansion plans for unsupervised Robotaxi CyberCab operations in 2026? How many vehicles are targeted for the fleet by year end, and what reoccurring revenue contribution is expected? That question was not answered. I'm going to do 2 more here. What is Tesla's plan to roll out digital Optimus with SpaceX AI? Will Tesla deploy Megapods to superchargers? What is Tesla's capital contribution? What is Tesla's revenue share with SpaceX AI? When can we expect customers and revenue to ramp? That question was answered, as far as I know. When can we expect unsupervised FSD with point-to-point summon capabilities? And then I'm just going to do one more because it involves hardware 3, because Allison Sheridan today, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, Allison, got 14.1 Lite FSD. So haven't heard how it's gone yet, but I'm excited to hear what she thinks. So this last question. Elon confirmed hardware 3 cannot achieve unsupervised FSD. What is the plan for owners who paid for FSD? Free hardware upgrades, transfers, refunds? What is the timeline, and what cost has Tesla accrued for this? So that is, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to obviously read all of these because there's hundreds, but I don't think we satisfactorily answer these questions. And I'm sure you've all heard my theory that the longer that they chat, the less time they give analysts to ask their questions. So, yeah. Speaking of such, let's go ahead and get to the analyst questions.
There seems to be some evolving regulations at the state level, potentially around sensor requirements. So I'm just curious, as you think about your own rollout, what do you want to see, or what do you need to see from regulators to make sure that, obviously some regulation might be good, but you don't want it to be overregulated. So what are you expecting to see? What do you want to see to make sure that this is, done in a proper way?
And we've got Lars on the line. Lars, if you wouldn't mind covering this one, if you can.
Yeah, sure, Travis. I think, we talk about regulation, particularly in the US, we've made a lot of headway. Just good initiatives from the federal government in terms of the FMVSS rules, moving towards, acceptance and adoption of purely built AVs. And I really appreciate the support from NHTSA on that. When it comes to like a state to state level, obviously the stuff in New Jersey, um, you know, is a little bit disheartening. I think ultimately, as Ashok said in his opening remarks, we really focus on the performance of the vehicle, and ultimately that's what's going to drive regulators and the public to adopt it. I think the best regulations are those that provide companies and innovators with a goal or a task and allow us to figure out the solution. And when we see regulations that provide a solution before identifying the problem, we really don't, appreciate those. But as Tesla always has and will continue to do, we'll let our performance speak for itself. And I think a show played that out really clearly, and that'll be the foundation of our expansion moving forward.
I mean, it's a good answer. I don't know how else they would answer this, right? Tesla has their viewpoint and how they think this is all going to work, and the states have theirs. I mean, they got to work together to try to figure something out. So, all right, let's move on to our next question.
Next is Alex from Bank of America. Alex, as soon as you can, please unmute yourself.
Hey, thanks for the questions here. Just a few follow-ups on Robotaxi, actually. I guess what milestones should investors be watching from here that would cause you to accelerate your fleet scaling or market deployments? Is it the further safety validation, like a miles driven per incident or something else? And then would you ever consider third-party distribution partnerships, such as with rideshare providers, to increase utilization, or is the plan for now to keep Robotaxi fully vertically integrated? Thanks.
Yeah, we expect to be vertically integrated with Robotaxi as we are in the rest of our business. So I don't think we're going to have any demand challenges with Robotaxi. So this is, but the economics will be so compelling that I think we will really have a lot more um, desire to use the service than like I think demand will outstrip our ability to service the demand. Um, and so obviously there's no you can just go vertical in that situation. So it's really just about going through and what we call the march of nines of reliability, where you need like how many nines of reliability do you need to scale? Ideally, you want 99.999999 percent reliable, um, and um, and so that's it's just the march of nines of reliability is I think the only thing really constraining our growth in robotaxi.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if the analyst was expecting a different answer. I would suspect not. I mean, I kind of thought this was going to be the answer when the analyst asked it. Uh, Here's the thing. If Tesla, for some reason, decides that they are now going to, let's say, partner with Uber or partner with Lyft or some other, like, heaven forbid, Waymo, then we'll know that it's probably not working out the way that they wanted to. But I highly doubt that that's going to be the case. Tesla's got plenty of money. They can operate the Robotaxi at a loss. It's not that much of a loss, especially considering how little of a fleet they have at the moment. They're definitely not the size that Elon said that they would be by the end of 2027. So, yeah, I mean, their whole thing is they developed a whole term Robotaxi. I just don't see them partnering with anybody else. All right, let's move on to our next question.
Great. Thanks, Elon. The next question is going to come from Colin at Wells Fargo. Colin, please unmute yourself when you're ready.
Oh, great. Thanks for taking my questions. Um, there's been a lot of chatter about SpaceX and Tesla combining in some way. I mean, a lot of collaboration already today. I mean, Elon, do you see synergies eventually from combining the companies? And does that make sense from you, from your perspective over time?
Well, I mean, as you can tell from all the many collaborations on so many fronts with SpaceX, and there's a lot there's more and more overlap, um, especially with TerraFab. That's really going to be a gigantic project. Um, so, but obviously, we can't talk about combining companies and that kind of thing on an earnings call. It's got to be done with the appropriate process. And with that, I'll turn it over to Brandon, our general counsel.
Yeah, no, thanks, Elon. And that's exactly right. We continue to benefit from our relationship with SpaceX, and they've been a great partner, and we have numerous beneficial transactions with them. And earlier this year, we deepened our relationship through an investment and a framework agreement. And this will allow us to continue to work with them on projects that Elon mentioned, like TerraFab and digital optics.
Yeah, and there's many other things too. Obviously, you've got Grok in the car, and so and Grok helping, yeah, drive digital Optimus. That you also got Starlink being integrated into the CyberCab, and Starlink will be integrated into all of our vehicles, at least for markets that Starlink is active. Um, because for a robotaxi situation, you need to have coverage everywhere, and there are many places, even in Silicon Valley, where the cellular coverage is a terrible or sometimes non-existent, which is surprising for Silicon Valley. Um, but I know when I drive to work, those first 10-15 minutes, I can't actually do any calls because the cellular connectivity is so bad. So we can't have robotaxis getting stuck in these like Bermuda triangles of lack of cellular connectivity. So Starlink with its ability to do connectivity anywhere is actually quite important. So we don't have car, robotaxis missing in action. And then obviously if people are sitting in the car, they're going to want to do high productivity stuff or what entertainment. And with Starlink, you can watch 4K live sports in the car, and with very low cost per gigabyte of data. That's really not feasible via the cellular system. And there's many other situations.
Yeah, I mean, I would say think of it like uh, Ashok was mentioning about CyberCab, right? That the experience is great. In a world when you don't have to focus on driving, you have all the time in the car to do whether it's a conference call, watch a movie, or anything. That's why if you look at the CyberCab design, it has a big screen, and we've started doing CyberCab rides in our factory in Austin. And when you go through that experience, you I mean, soon customers would be able to do it in not too distant future, and then you'll understand why that connectivity becomes so important.
I mean, I don't really have a comment on whether or not SpaceX and Tesla should merge into one company. Like, whatever. I'm not an investor in either one of these companies, so it doesn't really matter to me. I will say though, just anecdotally, like Starlink, I talked to somebody that's in the middle of the woods in Colorado today on Starlink, and it was pretty good. We had a nice little chat, video chat, and I mean that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool technology to be able to be in the middle of nowhere and then just have a chat with somebody. Um, and it was like I would have never known that they didn't have cell technology or cell connection where they were if they didn't tell me that they were talking to me on Starlink. So, whatever you might think of a merger or whatever, uh, having the cars connected to Starlink is obviously an advantage, especially in low cell service areas where the service isn't so good. But also, yeah, I mean, it was really good. Not gonna lie, not something that I probably need to buy myself, but I mean, if I lived in the middle of nowhere, I would definitely have it for sure. All right, let's move on to our next question. Or it doesn't even have to be in the middle of nowhere. It just when I think the middle of nowhere, in my head, that's where I grew up in Alaska, was the middle of nowhere. But most of my friends have Starlink, so they have it, and it's on the outskirts of nowhere where I grew up. All right, let's move on to our next question.
Yeah, just if I would follow up on Robotaxi, if I look at the launches, you've been adding cities, but the number of units is still, looks like based on media reports, sort of in the dozens as opposed to hundreds. Why not just sort of scale up Austin or one or two cities before adding cities? And sort of what do you need to sort of get that, higher volume numbers in a major city? What sort of is the roadblock to sort of adding more vehicles on the ground?
Yeah, the reason we have been expanding across different cities instead of just doubling down on a single city is that we want to make sure that our stack is a very general one. It is a general one. We just want to both prove to ourselves and to other folks that it is working across a lot of different cities without too much effort per city. And that's what we see internally. And then, as Elon mentioned earlier, the growth rate has been literally exponential. Just it's in the early part of the exponential. That's why it's hard for others to comprehend. In terms of miles versus the vehicles, since these vehicles operating the Robotaxi fleet drive basically continuously, as opposed to human drivers who use vehicles for maybe a couple hours a day or something like that, these vehicles are in mostly continuous operation, which means that even for a few vehicles, you can get a lot of miles out of them. And that's why we are tracking the amount of unsupervised miles or just the number of vehicles or something like that. And we want to be operating in a very efficient fleet. So all of the work that goes into the efficiency makes it even more so that we get a lot of miles per vehicle available in the fleet.
Yeah, and just to add further to this, think of it, we're trying to scale this, and we're trying to make sure that there are different kinks which would be there, and there are things not just on the software front, on the operation front, which we're also trying to tackle. So that's why we're trying to have a broader footprint to try and make sure before we go really high in terms of deployment, that we are able to sort these things out in a smaller fleet in a controlled manner.
Yeah, one of the things for CyberCab that should be noted is because it is a new vehicle chassis, we need to accumulate um, driving data that is specific to the CyberCab before we can put a lot of them on the road. So unlike say Model 3 and Model Y and our other vehicles where we've got a lot of vehicles on the road, millions of vehicles on the road, um, we we don't have that for CyberCab, so we actually have to accumulate miles with CyberCabs that are retrofitted with steering wheels and brakes, acceleration, braking pedals, that kind of thing, um, to calibrate to the CyberCab chassis. So you'll see as we are confident about that, the number of CyberCabs in cities will increase dramatically.
Great. Our next question is going to come. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Lars.
If I can
Yep.
just add one thought here. The other reason I just want to point out is, transportation, TCO, transportation regulatory uh, situations are different city by city, state by state. It is not a federal, framework to do that. And so the reason we're expanding city by city is to make sure that we're meeting all of those one at a time, and we're satisfying all of the requests of each individual city and in every way we can. And so we have to expand, you know to each city to meet those requirements, and we'll continue to do so. And until all of what Ashok and Vaibhav and Ashok said, we'll follow with the scaling.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad answer. I think that's an answer. I do think because most of they're not currently doing anything with the CyberCab in terms of Robotaxi outside of Tesla's factory in Austin. So I don't know that that's actually an answer when it comes to why can't you scale up faster. We get that CyberCab's in testing. Let CyberCab test, but the rest of the robotaxis, which are Model Ys, those seemingly you can scale those up faster. It could be that, like they said, hey, we have all these regulatory processes that we have to go through and make sure that we're operating safe, and everybody understands that. I don't think anybody would blame Tesla for expanding to different parts of the country with different traffic patterns and different weather and different this and different that to test. I don't think anybody would or should fault them for doing that. It's just that last year around this time, a claim was made that they would cover half of the United States by the end of the year. And I think those kind of claims don't help out what Tesla's trying to do. I am totally fine with how they are rolling things out. Roll it out slow. Make sure you're safe. It's not like we need this tomorrow. Like we have methods of getting around. We don't need Tesla to be everywhere tomorrow. We don't need Waymo to be everywhere tomorrow. Like, but let's go through the process and make sure that everybody's okay and safe. I don't have any issue with that. The issue, and I think a lot of people have, is the messaging that goes out before the reality of, hey, this is going to be huge. And, if you remember, that messaging was right around the time that they were considering Elon's pay package. Like, this is the kind of thing that like, I think Tesla's a great company, but there are certain things, bugaboos of mine, right before Elon's pay package, they said, "Hey, we're going to show you the Robotaxi, the Roadster, and it's going to hover for a couple of seconds." I think that was said on the Joe Rogan podcast by Elon, and it's going to come next month. And then people voted on the pay package, and it didn't come. Like that's the kind of thing. Whether or not that's intentional, I'm not going to say it is or it isn't, but I do think that's the kind of thing that gets Tesla in trouble. Is there are bold statements that are made, and the reality of actually putting pen to paper and making things work is different. And the bold statements that are made aren't always by Elon, but often are. But the bold statements that are made it's not doing the company or the engineers any favors. So having said that, I do think, I'm very hopeful for what CyberCab has to offer. I think I said this the last time we talked, but man, I see those at least once a week, if not twice a week now. And I'm like, man, that looks cool. That's a cool looking car. Can't wait to ride in it. So we'll kind of see what they end up doing. Always on always on the freeway, with the exception of one time when it was outside of my neighborhood, which is a good sign because they're clearly testing in my neighborhood. So, or the person driving it lives in my neighborhood or somewhere around my neighborhood. All right, let's move on to our next question.
The next question is coming from Walt from Lightshed. Walt, please unmute yourself.
Thanks. Just a quick follow-up for that Lars comment. The NHTSA administrator, Jonathan Morrison, was just on CNBC. He already, was trying to get rid of the pedal and said, I forget his exact term, but it seemed like he wanted to get rid of the steering wheel. It seemed like that would be a gating factor. But is there other things that you need at the federal level to really kind of unlock your ability to ramp CyberCab?
The short answer is no. I think we have a great relationship with NHTSA and Director Administrator Morrison especially. And I think they're just following through with what the public wants and the world knows is coming, and they're trying to stay ahead of it and make sure that they're doing the right things in place. So we've been open and honest with them for the last couple of years about what our plans were and what we're doing, and we don't want to say we're in lockstep, but I feel like we have a partner there, and we're working together on it.
Got it. And then just Elon, there's kind of a roadmap question, I guess. Starlink obviously is integrated in CyberCab, and you guys just talked about the connectivity for watching movies. But what about the flip side of that? Can the CyberCabs become remote hotspots for Starlink Mobile? And then similarly, roadmap question on the Semi. When do you anticipate looking at autonomy for the Semi? Because that seemed like a pretty sizable market as well in terms of autonomous trucking and the need for it, given what's going on in our country right now.
Yeah, absolutely. There, as you allude to, there is a really serious shortage of truckers. There just aren't enough people around who want to drive trucks, which are crucial for transport throughout America. Um, so an autonomous semi is actually going to be very important to address the shortage of truck drivers. Um, and obviously will be great for improving safety and uh, and making it easier on truck drivers to have a self-driving semi is going to I think dramatically improve safety and comfort for truck drivers that use this as a semi. Um, the since the units, the total number of units of the Tesla Semi is still low and will continue to be a very small percentage even by the end of this year of our total vehicle fleet. It makes sense for us to focus our efforts, our self-driving efforts, on our high volume vehicles, so Model 3 and Y, um, and solving self-driving and really getting to, the point where it's generalized, unsupervised self-driving uh, for for those vehicles, um, and CyberCab. So we expect to um, get self-driving working on the Tesla Semi, probably around the end of this year or early next year. Um, and I just don't want it to be a distraction um, on the on the march of nines of self-driving of safety for self-driving on three-way and CyberCab. That's so that it's taking a bit of a backseat for the next 6 months or so for autonomous semi, but it will be a, it will definitely be a bit working next year and in time for the scale up to high production of Tesla Semi. Um, for communications, yeah, I think there's an interesting angle there where um, you could use the Starlink terminals that are in the Tesla cars as like sort of cell towers, I suppose, or connectivity towers, basically for um, providing relays on the ground to cell phones and to anyone who would like Wi-Fi, basically. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is a different subject, but obviously one could do that with the stationary Starlink terminals too.
As far as full self-driving and the Tesla Semi goes, I would imagine, it wouldn't be super hard to get full self-driving working on the Tesla Semi. I would think that it's probably more of a regulatory problem because there are just a ton of rules when it comes to truckers that don't necessarily apply to the standard driver. So that's a whole nother set of hurdles that Tesla would have. And then also, you only have so much software talent. You can't be working on Optimus and, full self-driving and, full self-driving light for hardware 3 vehicles and letting people live a life outside of work. The Tesla has a lot of employees and they have a decent amount of money, but they're also, you know, uh, it's limited. There's a limited amount of people who can do this kind of stuff, and right now, especially in the AI market and things like that, you can become like if you're really good at your job, you can become a millionaire and go somewhere else. And so there's just a lot. There's a lot of competing factors there. So I totally understand why they would want to hold off on Tesla Semi until they got some of these other things kind of dialed in. That makes sense. The other thing with the using it as a mobile tower for I don't know. I don't know anything about that stuff. It would seem like if it was moving around, it wouldn't be super reliable, but using the stationary terminal seems like a great idea. So we'll see if Tesla's, wants to try and solve that problem or even address it. All right, let's move on to our next question. We're almost done.
As a follow-up, well, first, maybe you could talk about the timing as to when Optimus 4 should be, should, let's say, start production. But the actual follow-up I wanted to ask was the plan to upgrade hardware 3 to hardware 4 in order to be able to process, I suppose it's version 15 of and future versions of FSD. Is that still the plan to do hardware upgrades on the cars?
I think it's going to make sense for to upgrade all cars with that are have less than hardware for almost all any cars that have cameras, basically, because otherwise it would be probably too many modifications. But anything that's got sort of that's set up for cameras, it'll be financially sensible at some point to upgrade them. But I think we'd want to upgrade them to the next generation of like next generation AI board. So it'll be either like we haven't upgraded AI-full chip that's sort of a sort of a moderate improvement of AI-full, probably reaches production around the middle of next year. Um, and then there's also AI-5, which hopefully is in volume production around the middle of next year. AI-5 will initially go into Optimus, and actually making very good progress. So the Tesla chip team is really doing great work and making incredibly fast progress on AI-5. And I'm very excited about the design of the Tesla AI6 chip. I think it's going to be the best edge computing chip in the world. And if somebody's got a better one, I'd like to meet that person and shake their hand, because the AI6 chip is just so good. So I think I think it's going really well on the chip front. Yeah, and again, I'd like to thank TSMC and Samsung and Micron for the support.
All right. Okay. So I have a bet with Joseph about whether or not Tesla is going to, in fact, upgrade everybody's hardware without making them pay, basically. And his thought is, yes, Tesla's gonna, even if you didn't buy FSD and you're not subscribed. And Joseph, let me know if I'm wrong here, but I think I'm right. And it's been about a year since we bet. But even if you're not using FSD, you're not subscribed, you didn't pay for it, Tesla's going to update your hardware. My thing is maybe Tesla would update your hardware if you paid for it up front. Maybe they'd offer you a discount if they gave you if you were subscribed to the subscription, or maybe they would say they do it for free if you agree to subscribe for a year or whatever. That's my kind of thought on it. Or if you want it, then they'll charge you X amount of dollars for it. We'll see who owes who a cup of coffee. It's looking more and more as if I'm going to owe Joseph a cup of coffee. We'll see. We'll see. I hope they update everybody. So I think I think we made this bet before FSD subscription, or excuse me, before you could, before Tesla took away the ability to pay outright for FSD. But regardless, if I lose, I will honor my bet. But I would love, honestly, to get hardware for my car came out, and whatever the updated hardware 4.5 or whatever Tesla's going to call it. When my car came out, I was one of the last hardware 3 vehicles that came out. So looking forward to getting hardware for free, except for I have to pay for a cup of coffee. All right, let's move on. We're coming. I think this is our last question. So let's go ahead and move in to our last question.
We are coming up on the hour, but we're going to try to squeeze Dan in. So from Barclays, Dan, please unmute yourself.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'd like to ask about the pace and path of CapEx. Elon, in the past, you've said that you'll spend as much as you can, but really efficiency seems like it's the gating factor. So, to what extent right now in this CapEx cycle is your pace of CapEx effectively capped simply because spending any more would be done in an inefficient manner? And to what extent is the pace of CapEx really the primary determinant right now in unlocking the different supply constraints that you have?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've actually, what I've asked the Tesla team to do is like really we should be spending on CapEx as fast as we can spend, as fast as we can without it being too wasteful. So we're not trying to aim for like some e- extremely high efficiency capital spend, because that would slow things down. Um, so it's a balance between like how much sort of capital efficiency versus time. Um, so if we can be, it's okay to be a little less capital efficient if we get things done sooner, because that's actually going to be the higher NPV outcome for the company. Um, so Overall, I'm pretty happy with how things are going. I mean, we're doing an incredible amount of construction and production growth in so many different arenas simultaneously. Um, I don't think there's ever been a company that's done this at the scale, but maybe proportionately back when Henry Ford did the Model T or something like that, but or World War II when companies were making it had to sort of scale up weapons production. But I think probably this is the fastest industrial scale up in, since World War II in America.
Yeah, and I will just add a little bit on that. Basically, if you look at it, all our spend on CapEx is trying to do productive assets, right? We're basically scaling factories, whether it's Optimus, whether it's CyberCab, whether it's LFP factory, which went into operation earlier this year, or the semi factory, or even putting in a semiconductor fab in there, as well as, we are trying to get a lot of solar manufacturing in the US. In fact,
Yeah,
our
very important.
plants,
Yeah,
yeah,
this is underrated, by the way.
yeah,
Please go ahead.
yeah.
Follow
I
up,
was going
please.
to, yeah, basically, the amount of solar manufacturing which happens in the US, we're just going to multiply it with an order of magnitude. And none of these things are easy, right? Because what you have to do is, in order to build a factory, you have to start from ground zero. So, just so you know, again, I don't think we have shared this. We end up being the general contractor for almost all our construction facilities because we are doing that much construction.
Yeah,
And so, going back to what Elon was saying, we're going at a very rapid scale. And yes, this means that we are doing a lot of things all at the same time, and that's why we just have to go as fast as we can humanly make things work in the real world.
yeah. Our capex efficiency, I think, is off scale good.
All right. I think we should leave it there because one, I don't want to be negative, and sometimes I am accused of being negative during these earnings calls, but I don't think so. Like, I think if, like, I let my kids be respectfully, and I don't think I'm being disrespectful, but I let my kids respectfully disagree with me. I let my kids share their opinions that are different than mine. I don't see why that's any different. And I expect my kids to hold my feet to the fire if I'm doing something that is hypocritical. So, and that goes for whether the firefighters that I work with, my kids, my family, whatever. Like, I do think that if we're all just marching to the same orders in the same direction, that doesn't really help anything. And I do have strong opinions in some cases when it comes to this stuff. But in the end, I want to see what Tesla can do. I want the things that Tesla is saying that they are going to do or they want to do. I wish that it wasn't such a grand promise. And I wish that that wasn't the case, but they generally do come through on most, if not all, of the things that they say they're going to do. It's just not in the way that they say they're going to do it. So, having said all that, that is, I don't know. That's is an okay earnings call. And I feel for Elon because I've definitely had to go to work when I don't feel good, and you can hear him coughing in the background a couple of times. That definitely sucks, and maybe that's why the earnings call felt a little weird. It just I didn't. Typically, they're very good with the retail and institutional stay.com questions. They didn't. I don't feel like they really addressed those in the way that the questions were asked in a lot of cases. But we did come around in some ways. We came around to getting some of those answers through the analyst questions. So, all right, everybody, that is it for me. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. It's a big one. Yeah. If you listened all the way, send me an email. It's Bodie, BODIE at 918digital.com. Hope you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and I will talk to you for our weekend edition.